warning, this video contains opinions that not everyone will agree with, and this is my list of my favorite games throughout every year, and there are going to probably be a ton of games that may be your favorite but don't make it on the list, because once again, this is a personal preference. Let me know your list of your favorite games from every year in the comments below.
The year is 2000, and it was filled with lots of games, good games in fact, but I wasn't even born yet, and I really haven't played many games from the year 2000, so I'm putting Spyro Year of the Dragon, as it is the only game from the year 2000 that I remember playing. "2001 was a banger of a year for games, and even if I didn't get to play them when they first released, as I was either way too young or not even born yet, but years later, I went back and I discovered some true gems from this year. 3 games that stood out the most to me that I played from this year are Halo Combat Evolved, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and Cell Damage. Even though I didn't get to experience Halo at launch, when I finally got around to playing it, I was still hyped and I was still excited to play it. The controls were incredibly smooth, the combat was fantastic, the story was pretty good, but to be honest, with how young I was when I first played the game, I probably didn't pay any attention whatsoever to anything to do with the story. It was all about cool weapons, taking out some aliens, spaceships, and other cool stuff like that. I also remember countless nights staying up late playing split screen with a friend on all the Halo games basically, and it was just the best of times. Return to Castle Wolfenstein might not get mentioned as often as Halo, but I really liked how it mixed World War II themes with supernatural horror elements, and honestly the game was just fun. The story takes you deep into secret Nazi experiments, undead soldiers, and creepy underground catacombs. I mean, it was just a really unique game, and gameplay wise it felt tight and fast, the shooting was punchy, the weapons felt great, and the level design was pretty varied. One moment you're sneaking through a quiet village, the next you're battling abominations in some sort of laboratory. It's one of the first games that made me appreciate the atmosphere as much as the gameplay, and though when I first played it, I probably didn't pay much attention to the story or really the characters, but I really liked the gameplay and I really liked the level design, and I played it countless times. This game also scared the crap out of me when I first played it because I was like 11 or 12, but that didn't stop me from playing it over and over and over again with a friend, and for some reason, I do not know why, but for some reason, I just thought you couldn't save your progress in this game, so I never had any saved games whatsoever, and I would always restart from the beginning every time I played the game, do late night challenges to see how far we could beat the entire game in one night, which we managed to do once, just beat the entire game within like 5 hours, but I still don't know why I thought I couldn't save the game. In my opinion, Cell Damage is a hidden gem. It is a vehicle combat game with a Saturday morning cartoon style. It looked like you were playing an actual cartoon, and even today, that cel-shaded art style still holds up surprisingly well. It's just a super stylized and super fun game. I really like this game and the absurdity of the weapons, giant axes, black holes, boxing gloves. It was just chaotic, and I didn't play it very much, but I do remember playing it, and I had a blast while playing it, and I played it with a friend, and it was just overall good times. And recently, I wanted to play this game again since it's been so long and see if it really held up to how I picture it in my head, even though I haven't played it in just forever. I went to the game store and actually got a copy of this game for the original Xbox, and I want to make a video about the game eventually, but who knows, sometimes I'm just really slow at making videos. "2002 was another one of those years that really brought some variety to the table, and there were a lot of big games that released and a lot of games that became classics. But once again, it's a year that I haven't really played many of those games, even though I didn't experience any of these games either when they first launched. Some of them eventually found their way into my hands, and they left an impression that stuck. This year had a wide variety from crime dramas, chaotic party games, and giant monster battles. I mean, what else could you ask for?
It's worse than Peppy.
When people think of open world crime games, they usually jump straight to Grand Theft Auto, but Mafia deserves a lot more credit than it gets. It wasn't just about stealing cars or causing mayhem, it had a deep, story driven narrative that felt more like watching a classic gangster film than playing a game. And it had realistic traffic laws and other things that made it more immersive. Set in the 1930s, the game follows Tommy Angelo, a cab driver who gets pulled into a crime family. And what hit me the most was the pacing and how it focused on character development and dialogue. The cutscenes, the period, authentic cars, the music, it all made the world feel incredibly immersive. Even the driving mechanics were designed to reflect the era, meaning you weren't just going to pull off the most insane stunts, but instead you had to obey traffic laws or face the consequences. Not to mention, it had a racing level that for some reason took me so many attempts. I'm talking like 20 something attempts just to beat that level. I mean, my goodness, I've never failed at a level more than that racing level. Now for something less serious is Super Monkey Ball 2. This game is pure arcade chaos, wrapped in bright colors and of course bananas. You roll a monkey trapped in a ball through increasingly ridiculous obstacle courses, and that's it. That's the entire game, and somehow it's one of the most addicting and infuriatingly fun experiences. What makes it different and unique is you don't move the monkey or the ball yourself, you tilt the stage, and that design decision alone gives the game a unique feel, and every level is a test of control and patience, and when you pull off a clutch win on a super hard stage, it feels amazing. The next game is Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about this game, and I'm not even sure how many people remember this game, but this game is just dumb fun in the best possible way. You pick your favorite monster from the Godzilla universe, including Godzilla himself, Mechagodzilla, King, whatever his name is, I don't know how to pronounce that name, and I probably will mess it up, Mothra, and plenty more. I mean, you just go to town on other monsters, you throw them into buildings, you just punch them in the face. It's just plain simple, but it's really fun, especially when you got friends. Buildings crumble under you, tanks roll in and get launched across the map, and every monster has its own moves and special abilities. The graphics were alright for the time. I played this game a ton with friends, and it always turned into a good time. It's not a complex fighting game like Tekken or Street Fighter or something like that, but it doesn't have to be. It knows exactly what it is, and it delivers that perfectly. 2003 was a year packed with games that blended style, storytelling, and chaos in unique ways, and I ended up liking a little bit of everything, even a bit of sports games. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? Me liking a sports game? I mean, could it be? If I had to describe SSX3 in one word, it would be style, or snow style. Technically, the last one was 2 words, but I'll let it slide. This game was just an entire vibe in itself. The soundtrack slapped, the announcer hyped you up, and carving your way down a massive, seamless mountain just felt incredibly satisfying. You could literally snowboard from the very top all the way down through challenging environments, grind on rails. I mean, it's just a fun snowboarding game, and dare I say, it is still the best snowboarding game that has ever been released. I mean, there's been contenders and there's been competition, but they just haven't matched the same energy and style that this game does. Also, the game has a lot of snow, and I like snow, so it gets a bonus point. I don't know what a bonus point does, but it gets one. Star Wars: The Knights of the Old Republic, set thousands of years before the Star Wars films, it gave players the freedom to become a Jedi or fall to the dark side, all while unraveling a giant story. The dialogue system, the party system, the morality choices, it was all ahead of its time, and I'm sure a lot of people know this game and have played it by now. And I gotta be honest, when I first played this game, I kind of hated this game. But eventually I played it again years later, and it wasn't that bad. I don't know why I hated it the first time. I'm really am not sure why, but I didn't like it the first time, but I went back years later and played it, and it was a fantastic game. It was very fun. The graphics are a bit dated now, but, really fun game. Really good RPG. Ratchet and Clank going commando. Honestly, I'm not really sure I remember a whole lot about this particular Ratchet and Clank game, as I haven't played it in a while, or any of the Ratchet and Clank games in a while, but I do remember playing pretty much all of the Ratchet and Clank games, and I liked them. So this game released this year and I have to put it on the list, because at one point I really liked and enjoyed all the Ratchet and Clank games, even if I haven't played them in a while. Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. Honestly, this game is still underrated. I don't care how much attention this game may have, it is still underrated. I mean, you build and manage your own dinosaur park, balancing guest security, enclosures, and the ever-present risk that a T-Rex or a raptor or whatever carnivore dinosaur, dangerous dinosaur you have might break out, and it will turn your park into a horror show. Now, I know technically speaking, we do have Jurassic World Evolution and Jurassic World Evolution 2, and I think there's a new one on its way, which are supposed to be new and improved versions of this game, but honestly, those suck, and I like Genesis way more. And this game was just so much fun, and it deserves a remaster. Can we get this remastered? Because honestly, the new Jurassic World Evolution games, they just kind of suck. It was just, I don't know what it is, but Jurassic Park Operation Genesis is just a better game. It had a good level of depth. It was far ahead of its time. The graphics were fantastic. Even today, there's a reason people still talk about this game, and it's moddable on PC, which I might just have to mod this game on PC and make a video about it, because this game was just so good. The next game is Brute Force, and now I know this one didn't exactly go down as a classic, but Brute Force had its own charm. It was Xbox's attempt to create a squad-based third-person shooter with a mix of sci-fi and team strategy. You had 4 characters, each with their own abilities and strengths, and you could swap between them in real time or play co-op with friends. The gameplay could be a bit clunky, but there was just something cool about switching between the characters. It had potential. I liked the characters, I liked the gameplay, and even if it fully didn't reach classic status or even get a second game, for me it was a fun game, and a remaster would be nice. The next game is War of the Monsters, and this game was just pure arcade fun. War of the Monsters lets you play as giant kaiju-inspired creatures and destroy entire cities while battling other monsters. Think Godzilla melee game from 2002, but the art style was modeled after like 1950s sci-fi films, and it had a unique aesthetic. I personally really enjoyed this game. In fact, I think I enjoyed it more than the Godzilla melee game, even if I played the Godzilla melee game more, but that wasn't really because this game was worse. It was because I got this game at like a garage sale or something, and it was not in the best condition, and I had to take it to the store and had them do like the CD fix or whatever used to go to the store, and they take your disc and they fix it somehow. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but the game would sometimes work again after that for a little while, and it was fun to play. It's also a game that I think is a bit underrated, and I don't really see it talked about that much, like ever. There are some years that go by and they give us very few good games, like 2024. But 2004 dropped game after game after game that would define genres, spark online multiplayer revolutions, and push the boundaries of tech, storytelling, and just pure gameplay. I didn't play all of these games when they came out, or even all the games from this year, but the ones I played have stuck with me, and there were a lot of games that released in 2004 that were just fantastic. Now, we can't talk about 2004 without opening with Halo 2. This game was massive, not even just for Halo fans, but for the online gaming community as a whole. While Halo Combat Evolved laid the foundation, Halo 2 perfected the formula and brought it online with Xbox Live, changing how we play multiplayer forever and bringing a lot of memes. The dual wielding, the energy sword, the cinematic campaign, everything felt upgraded. And then there was the multiplayer, which is also iconic. And this was just peak Xbox LAN party energy. And for many players, it was also their first time being part of a online multiplayer community. And to this day, it is still one of the best, if not the best, Halo game to ever release. And then we have Half-Life 2, which redefined storytelling and world building in FPS games. Valve built a world that felt lived in, immersive, and reactive. City 17, the Combine, G-Man, every moment made you feel like you were part of something much bigger. But beyond the story and setting, the physics engine was the star. The interactability was great, especially for its time. It also brought around the iconic gravity gun. I mean, every time you see the gravity gun now, you think of Half-Life. It also looked incredible for the time, and honestly, I still think it holds up pretty well today. That Source engine was just really good. This is just a must-get if you have a PC. Now let's switch gears. Burnout 3 was insane, honestly. This wasn't just a racing game, it was a car crash simulator, and let's be honest here, that's why a lot of people played this game, including myself. The moment you loaded it up and you heard that high energy soundtrack, you knew you were in for a wild ride. Now let's all be honest here, of course the racing was fun, but the takedown mechanic completely changed the racing game formula. You weren't just trying to cross the finish line first because you wanted to see the awesome crashes that were in the game. I mean, they were glorious, over the top slow motion carnage, and somehow the game still kept moving at breakneck speed. You would just crash as much as you can into other people, into cars, into buses, whatever you could. You would just smash into it because it was just so satisfying about nudging your enemy racer into a wall and watching chaos unfold. Personally, I still think no other racing game has fully nailed this level of speed, aggression, and style quite like Burnout 3 did. And there are some other games that, kind of fit into the similar category as Burnout, and they have some nice crashing mechanics, but this just may be the best racing game of all time. I mean, I'm just saying. Ratchet and Clank, up your arsenal, and no, I didn't just insult you. Insomniac continued their hot streak with the third Ratchet and Clank game, and up your arsenal. I don't know why, that name is just so funny, but it still may be one of the most fun entries in the series. The campaign itself was a blast, the classic humor, tight platforming, creative weapon design. I mean, it was polished, funny, and endlessly replayable, and honestly, it has one of the best names in the franchise. Last but not least, in 2004, we have Star Wars Battlefront, the first and original Star Wars Battlefront. Before microtransactions, Battlefront on PS2 and Xbox was the dream. It was the best Star Wars warfare game. It was like Battlefield, but Star Wars. And it wasn't developed by EA, so that might have actually helped it. Maybe that was one of the reasons it was actually good. By 2005, we were starting to see a transition, and the Xbox 360 would launch later that year, but most people were still locked into their PS2s, original Xboxes, or GameCubes. Before Call of Duty became the modern goofy skins and just rabbits and whatever, dogs and other just random goofy stuff happening in the same copy and paste of a game it is today, it was rooted in World War II, and Call of Duty 2 was one of the most polished and cinematic World War II shooters at the time. This game took what the original started and elevated it. It had a solid variety of perspectives, British, American, Soviet, and had some good audio visual fidelity. And the game honestly was probably jaw-dropping back then when it first released, and with how old it is, it actually still looks pretty decent today, at least in my opinion. I recently went back to the game in 2022, and I played through the entire thing and made a video about it, and I thought the game was an absolute blast, and it actually is one of my favorite Call of Duties. If the first Battlefront game was a dream come true, then the Battlefront 2 game was exactly the same. It took everything that the first one did and improved upon it in every single way possible. This game was just special, and if you really liked the first game, you would really like the second game. Personally, I kind of like the first one a little bit more than the second one, but they're both fantastic games, and you can't go wrong with either one of them. LEGO games today are practically a genre of their own, but the first LEGO Star Wars game was brilliant in its simplicity. It took the prequel trilogy and retold it in a goofy, wordless LEGO form, and somehow it worked. It was accessible, cooperative, fun, and just hilarious. Even if you weren't great at platformers or action games, and maybe you didn't even like Star Wars that much, you could still have fun smashing Lego droids, completing the levels, collecting studs, playing drop in and drop out, couch co-op with a friend or family member, whichever you wanted, it didn't really matter. It just made it a go-to game to play with friends or siblings, and this game just kind of spawned an entire empire of Lego games too, and honestly, this game is just fantastic. Now, this one might surprise some people, but King Kong was actually a shockingly good licensed game, in my opinion, of course. I mean, Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie, extremely long title, probably unnecessary, but apparently Ubisoft worked very closely with Peter Jackson to create a King Kong game that was as close to the movie as possible, and it kind of showed. The game had this super intense cinematic feel, immersive environments, and just a fantastic atmosphere. You'd switch between playing as Jack in a tense first person survival mode where you had to try to move and progress and survive as a human mixed with dinosaurs trying to kill you. Sometimes King Kong would show up himself, and you also got to play as King Kong where you just go full beast mode and destroy some T-Rexes, some other dinosaurs, some islanders, natives, whatever you want to call them. I'm not really sure what they are. The visuals were stunning for the time, and honestly, it kind of holds up pretty well for being this old. And the sound design was also really good. The jungle felt dangerous. For a movie tie-in game, I mean, you really can't get much better than this. It's one of those hidden gems of the 2000s, and if you just compare it to the most recent King Kong game, I mean, there is no competition. I mean, take any King Kong game and compare it to this one, any other King Kong game, and compare it to this game from 2005. There's absolutely no competition. Some of those other games should not have even tried, especially the newest, most recent King Kong game. What an embarrassment that was. Star Wars Republic Commando was a game that took Star Wars and then mixed it with a little bit of tactical squad gameplay, and it just works so well. It's shocking that they didn't make a sequel. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe it was due to licensing, maybe it was due to some studio shutting down, maybe the game just didn't perform that well when it released, but this game is excellent. You play as the leader of an elite clone trooper unit, and it was gritty, grounded, and dark compared to the more traditional Jedi-centered Star Wars games. You gave orders, you breached doors, and you actually had to think tactically, and unlike being a Jedi, you just can't take everything down on your own. And I remember parts of the game where you'd be by yourself and not have a squad, and those games actually those moments created some tense gameplay where you were like, I don't know, can I take that down? Do I try to be a bit more stealthy? Because you didn't have your squad with you. You didn't have backup on your side. Republic Commando stood out for its tone and focus on brotherhood among clones. It gave personality to the soldiers who were usually just background NPCs in the movies and some of the Jedi games. And honestly, it's still underrated to this day and deserves a remaster for sure, and possibly even a sequel, or even a prequel. There were so many Spider-Man games in the 2000s, but Ultimate Spider-Man was just so stylish, and it was based on the Ultimate comic book line, and it had this amazing comic book cel-shaded look, and it actually let you play as both Spider-Man and Venom. It wasn't as heavy as the Spider-Man 2 game, but the art style, voice work, and the ability to free roam around New York City still made it awesome. And being Venom, I mean, just causing wild chaos and just eating some of the officers. I'm not sure if I can say that on YouTube, but just, causing chaos, throwing cars around. It was just fun in a comic book way. And I know this game gets overlooked a lot, but it had a unique identity that sets it apart from the other Spider-Man games. Before Red Dead Redemption became the go-to cowboy simulator, Gun was laying the groundwork. It was a short but sweet open-world western that had a great story, satisfying gunplay, and solid exploration. It leaned more into action than simulation, but it still delivered that gritty frontier vibes and duels, horse chases, saloons, and ambushes. And the cast was also good. It had Thomas Jane, Ron Perlman. It had some great talent behind it. And while it may not have been as polished as Red Dead, it walked so Red Dead could ride. I think this game deserves just so much more credit for what it did at the time, and I just thought this game was really good, and I had a lot of fun playing this game. And at one point, I remember I had to write a paper for class in like middle school, and I remember I played this game like the day before, and I just started. I'm not really sure what it was, what the topic was or anything, but I wrote about this game. I just took the story from the game and then wrote it down on the paper, and it worked out okay. But this was just a fun, great game. If you haven't played it, I really recommend it. Ratchet and Clank DeadLocked. I think this game is a bit controversial. I think there's a lot of people that dislike it and a lot of people that like it. Personally, this is actually one of my favorite Ratchet and Clank games, and it was a curveball. Instead of the traditional platformer, DeadLocked went full action, and you were thrown into a gladiator-style death game, and you were stripped of Clank for most of it and armed with some wild weapons. It was darker, more mature in tone, but still carried that signature Insomniac charm and humor, and this honestly was just my favorite game in the franchise. I played it so much until the disc didn't work anymore, though that was probably my fault. I probably didn't take the best care of it, but I just played this game so much, and I had to get another copy because the first copy I got of it stopped working. "2006 was a wild year. It was a time when the Xbox 360 was just starting to show what next gen could be, and the PlayStation 2 was still going strong, with the PlayStation 3 and the Wii on the horizon. Let's just get this out of the way. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion was a game changer. Even if you weren't a die-hard RPG fan, you couldn't help but be impressed at some of the things this game did. That wide open world, the lush forest of Cyrodiil, the sprawling cities, the sheer freedom. You could be a hero, a thief, a battle mage, an archer, a vampire, or someone who just picked flowers all day and lived peacefully in a shack. Now, no one did that. Let's be honest here. No one did that. But the choice was yours, and that kind of open-ended play was still rare at this time. Sure, the faces were weird at times, and you could create some very hideous characters, and everyone kind of looked like they were made of wet clay or something, but the voice acting was decent, although the voice acting reused the same 3 people for half the cast, to be honest, and there were even mistakes in some of the recorded audio, but none of that mattered because Oblivion was magic. It was one of those games that made you feel like you were in a different world, whether it was getting lost in the Shivering Isles or closing yet another Oblivion gate. This game had a mystical grip on my imagination and a lot of people's imagination, and it still holds up in many ways today. In fact, just recently the game was remastered, and even though the performance of the remaster kind of sucks on everything, it is still a decent game. Alright, let's be real here. The Eragon movie was somewhat hated and debated over, and so was the game, but hear me out. It was surprisingly fun. I actually enjoyed the game. I don't know about the movie. I honestly am not even sure I watched the movie, but I know I did play the game, and I played it with a friend, and it was just fun. Now, this definitely falls into that category of Maybe it wasn't all that great, but I played it with a friend years ago and I had a blast playing it at the time because I played it with a friend and it was years ago. Was it amazing? Probably not. I'm not really sure. I'll have to go back and play this game at some point. But if you were into the books like I wasn't, or you just liked the movie and wanted something, you know, to play, Eragon kind of scratched that itch, and you could play it with a friend, and it was fun, or at least I remember it being. But I honestly haven't played it since like forever. I think the last time I played it was like 2012. Dead Rising was bold. It said, here's a shopping mall, here's hundreds of zombies. Go nuts, throw that mustard, throw that ketchup at those zombies. This game just felt different because it dropped you into a world that didn't revolve around missions like most games did. It revolved around time, and there were deadlines, survivors to rescue. Sure, there were missions that you could participate in, but if you happened to fail the mission, you failed the whole case and you could just kind of explore the mall and do what you wanted until the time ran out. And it also had a lot of psychos in the mall with their own personalities. It had a absurd amount of weapons. I mean, literally everything was like a weapon. Anything in the mall that you could pick up was basically a weapon. Camera mechanics that where you could take pictures of anybody that you wanted and get special PP points. That's XP for anyone that doesn't know. I'm not just saying PP for no reason. And the story that slowly unraveled as you played. I mean, the game was something special. It was one of the first zombie games I think I played, and honestly, I was just blown away. And still to this day, it's not only one of my favorite games of 2006, but it is one of my favorite games of all time, especially probably my most favorite zombie game, although I do like Dead Rising 2 off the record just a bit more than the first one. Also, the tone of the game, it wanted you to be serious 1 minute and then swing a toy sword or throw a teddy bear or something the next minute. I mean, the blend of horror and humor made it uniquely Dead Rising, and this one deserves way more respect and credit than Capcom is giving it. And honestly, the remaster that came out of this game did not do it justice. Now, Call of Duty tends to get overshadowed by every other game in the franchise, and it was sandwiched between the revolutionary and amazing Call of Duty 2 and the genre-defining Modern Warfare a year later, but I still think it deserves respect. It was Treyarch's first full attempt at a mainline Call of Duty, and it brought cinematic, gritty warfare to life in a more visceral way than ever before. It also had vehicle combat, kind of like Battlefield, obviously not to that giant large scale, but it had a vehicle combat, it had immersive environments, and even though this game did some things wrong, it did a whole lot right. And for some reason, as far as I know at least, it's the only Call of Duty to never release on PC, which I am kind of disappointed because I went to try and play it on PC after I finished Call of Duty 2, and it was nowhere to be found. The next game is Garry's Mod, and if you were like me and watched a lot of Vanoss Gaming back in the day, then you probably know of this game. And it's not your traditional game per se, as it's for creative types and you can kind of create your own games. It's kind of like a Roblox or a Fortnite creative, but before Fortnite creative. I can't say it's before Roblox. I don't really remember when Roblox came out, but this game was groundbreaking at the time, and it originally was a mod for Half-Life 2, but Garry's Mod became this insane, limitless sandbox where people just did everything that they wanted, from building ridiculous contraptions to making memes, machinima, or even full-on game modes like Trouble in Terrorist Town or Prop Hunt, which Trouble in Terrorist Town is one of the absolute best game modes ever. I mean, I really enjoy that mode. No matter what game it is, that mode is usually fun, especially if you have some friends playing with you, and especially if it's in VR. I don't know why, but VR is just way more fun with Trouble in Terrorist Town. I mean, you either played Garry's Mod or you watched a lot of content made in Garry's Mod. It was pure creativity, it was community driven, and it sparked countless things and the game also still lives on today. There's still a lot of people playing it, and most people found this game, or at least know of this game nowadays, from people like Vanos Gaming, but there were plenty of other people that played this game. That's just one of the people that I think of the most when I think this game. Also, this game was one of the main reasons why I wanted to get into PC gaming, just so I could play this game, and it was one of the first games I ever bought on Steam. The next game is Destroy All Humans 2, and Crypto is back, and this time he brought the chaos to the 60s. Destroy All Humans 2 was bigger, weirder, and funnier than the first game. The tone was pure parody, mocking hippies, spies, the Cold War, and basically everything else from the 1960s. But underneath all that satire was a surprisingly good sandbox shooter. You had new powers, new weapons, and bigger areas to explore, from Albion, a parody of London, to Takoshima, I probably said that wrong, which is a parody of Tokyo. Lots of powers, lots of guns, flying saucer. You basically could destroy every building. You could terrorize the city. There was a lot of fun to be had, and there were aliens, and it was just really fun. And I remember playing it with a friend and staying up late, and it was just fun. Now we move into the year 2007. We saw games pushing tech to new limits, redefining genre expectations, and breaking the fourth wall. And yeah, we also played as a rat who could cook, or at least some of us did. Let's start with possibly the biggest game on this list, which is Halo 3. I mean, this wasn't just a game release, it was kind of a global event. You couldn't go to school, hop on Xbox Live, or even enter a GameStop without hearing "finish the fight." Halo 3 wasn't just the end of a trilogy, it was the payoff to years of hype. Master Chief had become more than just a character, he was a symbol, and this game gave him the arc he deserved, and it finished the trilogy in the story. Or at least we thought. The campaign was cinematic, emotional, and filled with unforgettable moments, from the Scarab battles to the final escape sequence through the exploding ring. Multiplayer was just fantastic. It had custom games, Forge mode, the gravity hammer, the energy sword duels. I mean, you could invent your own game modes inside the game, and theater mode was amazing, and it started to become a staple at that point, and lots of other games after Halo 3 would have theater mode. I don't know why it's kind of disappeared in recent years. I think theater mode is just something that every game should have nowadays. At least FPS, multiplayer FPS games like that at least should have theater mode. In fact, all competitive multiplayer games should have theater mode of your previous matches. It should just be a thing. But Halo 3 was peak Bungie, and the legacy of Halo 3 still echoes today. It is also my personal favorite Halo game of all time, and the Halo game that I have played the most, and I remember staying up late playing it and even trying to do certain challenges. Portal was a game that took everyone by surprise. It was a smaller game, it was a short game. I mean, it was made by Valve, so a lot of people thought it would be good to begin with, but you wake up in a sterile test chamber, no one explains anything, and then you get a portal gun. 1 minute you're solving simple puzzles, the next you're bending gravity, momentum, and trying to use your mind to solve some difficult puzzles. But Portal wasn't just mechanically brilliant, it had a fantastic narrative. GLaDOS, with her monotone sarcasm, slowly reveals herself to be something far darker. The writing was sharp, dry, hilarious, and creepy. Portal redefined how much you could do with a small, focused idea, and it proved that you didn't need hundreds of hours of gameplay or open worlds to create something unforgettable. In 2007, Crysis released, and not only was it a benchmark, it was the benchmark, and of course, everyone knows the meme, "Can it run Crysis?" But I also really enjoyed Crysis personally, and of course, it wouldn't be on this list if I didn't like it. This game was great, and it really wasn't that great story-wise. I mean, I gotta be honest, I'm not even sure I really fully paid attention to the story. But you had the nanosuit, which let you switch between speed, armor, cloak, and strength. You could approach every scenario differently. Want to be a ghost, you can use cloak and pick them off, or try to sneak around and grab them and throw them. Want to go full wrecking ball, you get max armor and you can burst through walls. The environment was open and dynamic and breakable. The AI was reactive. You could shoot down trees and crush enemies. You could toss a car at a guard post. I mean, Crysis just let you feel powerful. You felt like a superhero, kind of. Overall, it was just a fun game, and even today, the phrase "can it run Crysis" still lives on, especially with the remasters. Team Fortress 2, which for me is one of the most fun, stylized, and personality-filled shooters ever made. After years in development limbo, TF2 dropped with a totally different aesthetic than the original game. It wasn't gritty or realistic, it was cartoony, bold, clean. It was like playing a Pixar short, but more bloody, more explosions, and more heads getting shot off. And hats. A lot more hats. And it was just funny, good. You had lots of characters to choose from. Each character wasn't just a loadout, but they had their own personality and play style. It was fast, competitive, and even when you lost, it was still fun. And it was the kind of game where you would accidentally play for many hours. Also, TF2 essentially pioneered loot cosmetics and the economy model that games like Overwatch and Valorant later used, but I'm not even sure that's a good thing at this point. But the game itself is really good and fun, and it is still very much alive today, even after all these years and very little updates for the past, I don't even know how many years. There hasn't been many updates in the past 5 years. Now, in the middle of all those fancy games, the shooters and the big releases, you had Ratatouille. And honestly, this game is underrated, and it is a movie licensed game, and a lot of people are trashing on all movies licensed games. But here's the thing, I actually really liked this one, and I thought it was good. And I don't really care what anyone else thinks about it. You play as Remy the Rat, of course, navigating kitchens, sewers, and the bustling streets of Paris. It was a 3D platformer with good controls, fun animations, and a creative level design. I just really liked it, and I'm probably going to go back to it at some time and see if it's as good as I remember. And while it didn't reinvent the wheel or anything, it was still just a fun game. 2008 was the year of the apocalypse, co-op chaos, cinematic storytelling, and a whole lot of Lego. Let's start with the radioactive elephant in the room, which is Fallout 3. This game changed everything, not just because of how massive it was, but because Bethesda took the classic isometric Fallout formula and brought it into full 3D, combining it with the open world DNA of the Elder Scrolls series. You step out of Vault 101 and see the capital wasteland stretch before you, ruined monuments, mutated beasts, collapsed cities, and from that moment on, you could go anywhere you wanted. You could do things your way. You could go whichever direction you wanted, whichever buildings that you wanted. You didn't have to do what the game tells you. You could play your own way and do things for the way that you want, whatever that may be. You also had a choice to be good or to be evil. Next up, we have Left 4 Dead, and let me just say, this game made me stay up late playing with a friend. Valve once again changed the game with Left 4 Dead. It wasn't just about lone wolfing it was about surviving together. 4 survivors, endless zombies, and a whole lot of screams. The AI director, it wasn't just spawning enemies randomly, it watched how you played. Well, it didn't literally watch how you played, but based on how you played, it adjusted the difficulty and intensity accordingly. If you were doing too well, it would throw a tank at you mid-reload. If you got overwhelmed, it might ease up on you for a few seconds, just long enough to make you think you're safe. Every playthrough felt different. The pacing, the tension, the panic when you hear that witch sobbing in the distance and you gotta turn your lights off. Whether you were shouting at your friends to close the safe room door, or laughing, or someone got pounced at the finish line, this was pure co-op fun. 2008 also gave us Call of Duty World at War, and this one just hit different. The music, the sound effects, the characters, the zombies. I mean, it all just felt gritty, realistic, intense. The campaign, I mean, it started off with a bang. You had flamethrowers, ambushes, desperation. The campaign just felt intense. But you know what really changed Call of Duty forever? The Nazi zombies mode that was introduced into this game. I mean, I'm not sure how many people seen it coming, but when you finish the campaign and suddenly you're boarding up windows in a black and white room while undead soldiers groan outside, and then you just have to survive for waves of zombies. It wasn't just a bonus mode, but this was the birth of COD's biggest tradition, zombies mode. And it is basically now what every Call of Duty has been doing recently just to sell some extra copies. Lego Batman dropped in 2008 and continued the Lego game formula of charm, puzzles, and co-op goodness, but with a new level of style. Unlike the previous Lego games that followed movie plots, Lego Batman had an original story and they were awesome. You got to play through the hero campaign and the villain campaign, which meant that you could be Bats or the Joker, Riddler, Penguin, or whoever you wanted. I know you didn't want to play Robin. I don't think anyone does. But wait, maybe one person watching this video wants to play as Robin, but there's so many other good characters. You don't want to play as Robin. You don't want to play as Robin. And then we have Star Wars The Force Unleashed, where you play as Starkiller, Darth Vader's secret apprentice, and from the very first level where you literally tear through Wookiees and choke them as Vader, you know this game's about to be a banger. The Force powers were awesome. You could grab a stormtrooper, electrify him midair, and then launch him into a TIE fighter. I mean, you felt dangerous, powerful, and just unstoppable. The story was pretty good, and sure it was janky at times, but The Force Unleashed nailed the cinematic gameplay and just the powerful fantasy of playing just a very powerful, I was gonna say Jedi, but you're not really a Jedi, but you're not like a Sith either. You're kind of in between. But it's just a game that Star Wars fans would have dreamed of. And if you're a Star Wars fan, you probably played this by now. But if you haven't, you really should. Command & Conquer Red Alert 3 was pure chaos in the best way. You had time travel, killer bears, Japanese mechs, and Tim Curry screaming about space. It was colorful and over the top, and it was exactly what the Red Alert series was known for, but beneath the cheese was some serious strategy. Okay, maybe not that serious, but the factions were balanced, the units had personality, and the base building just felt good. Co-op campaign was a blast. Every mission felt like a playable action movie, and it is just, honestly, I think it's my favorite Command & Conquer game. It's the one, if I want to play Command & Conquer, it's the one that I go to. Speaking of co-op, one of the most underrated and best two-player co-op games is Army of Two. I know a lot of people know this game and have played it, but I just don't think it got the attention that it deserved when it released. It was all about you and your partner, whether it was AI or a real friend, surviving war zones, using strategy, fighter powder, back-to-back shootouts. I mean, it was ridiculous, over the top, but it worked and it was fun, and that's all it needed to be. Was it corny? Absolutely, but it owned it. And it made it memorable, and it was just a fantastic, fun shooter game, and it makes me want to play it again. And last but not least of 2008, we have Lego Indiana Jones, which is another strong entry in the Lego lineup. And now, I wasn't the biggest fan of Indiana Jones, and I wasn't the biggest fan of, honestly, this Lego Indiana Jones, the first game, but it led to the second game, and I still had fun playing this game, even if I enjoyed the second game way more. I'm not a huge Indiana Jones fan, but I really enjoyed the Lego Indiana Jones games. The platforming, the puzzle solving, it was just fun. It was a tribute to Indiana Jones. It did the movies justice, even if it was a bit goofy, but it was just wholesome, fun, and really good to play with a friend. 2009 was a pretty big year for games. We had some big indie games that, well, I guess they're not considered big, but we had some indie games that would become big and would become classics, and we had good co-op experiences, and just overall, there was a lot of good games that released in 2009. Let's begin 2009 with Batman Arkham Asylum, which I consider a turning point for superhero games, as it kind of changed how superhero games are made and how the combat has changed in superhero games going forward. And to be honest, superhero games up to 2009, a lot of them haven't had the best track record. And let's also be honest here, after 2009, there was a whole lot of superhero games that don't have the best track record because they're usually movie tie-ins and some movie license games, which don't usually turn out that well. But Arkham Asylum changed that. Rocksteady Studios crafted a dark, immersive, and focused experience. It was a Batman game where you actually felt like you were Batman and you were doing investigations, you were fighting goons, you were fighting some of the legendary villains. Overall, it was just a very good game, and it kind of changed how people view superhero games going forward after this game. And I also made a full video on this game not too long ago, so if you want to see that, check it out. It's on the channel somewhere. Hopefully I'll leave a link in the description, but I'm bad at that. Then we got Modern Warfare 2, and let me tell you, this was a ginormous game when it released. And by that I mean everybody and their cousin was playing this game upon release. There's so many memes that came out of this game, clips, people trying to get those nukes. The campaign, I mean, it was absolutely wild. You have snowy missions, which I absolutely like because any game with snow I automatically like more. It also had the infamous No Russian level, which was recreated in later Modern Warfare games, and also was the first Call of Duty game to where you got to a level and it allowed you to skip the level because it wasn't intended, well, I say wasn't, but it's not intended for all audiences. Some people don't like it or something like that. It may be sensitive for some viewers. I think that's the saying, and it actually allowed you to skip the level. And also, I would put the level in the background right now, but YouTube would probably demonetize this entire video over just a little clip of that level. Now, I gotta be honest here, I actually didn't play Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer that much. I played a whole lot more of the campaign and the Spec Ops. I did play a little bit of multiplayer, but I definitely played the Spec Ops mode way more. Hot off the success of the original Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2 dropped just 1 year later, and it doubled down on everything that made Left 4 Dead good, and then it perfected it. And the sequel gave us 4 new survivors, melee weapons, new infected types, more diverse campaigns. Also, if you got the second game, you also basically got the first game, because the second game has all the levels of the first game, which is awesome. I think a lot more games need to do that, but it felt more alive, more brutal, and it was just a whole lot more fun. And you can take out zombies with frying pans, a bunch of different guns. It had like a grenade launcher. You can smack zombies in the face with a guitar. It even has a chainsaw now. If you have it on PC and you have like the final updates, you can use the chainsaw, which is pretty cool. It's pretty fun. Not to mention, it had a bunch of different modes and co-op, so you could play through the whole game with 3 other friends, which was an absolute blast. And then it also had the multiplayer mode where you could play as a special infected against other players who were trying to progress through the levels. And overall, it's just a fun, really good game. And if you haven't played it, I highly recommend it. But I'm sure everyone has played this game by now. Now, of course, Minecraft is on the list, and I wasn't really sure where to put it. Would I put it where the alpha release, where the full kind of release, like 1.0 released, or like a worldwide release where it released on consoles and everything? But either way, I'm putting it on the list for 2009 because that's early stages of the game when it launched, and also I just needed another game for 2009, I feel like. So Minecraft is for 2009, and I don't really need to say much. I mean, Minecraft is a great game. It doesn't have the best graphics. I mean, that's subjective though, because the game still does look good, especially if you mod it and you get some shaders in there. It can look really good. But you can basically build anything that you want in this game. It's a good survival game. It's a good game. I'm sure everyone has played it. I think that's enough talking about it. Borderlands 1 is a game that I think is often looked over because Borderlands 2 is really, really good. And honestly, Borderlands 2 is like one of my favorite games of all time. But Borderlands set that up and it started the franchise, and it still gave you a ton of different guns. Sure, it was a bit clunky and there were some issues with the game, but its cel shaded graphics were great. The world building was great. The characters were great. The gunplay was great. The game was just great. It was fun. It was funny. I mean, you could play it by yourself, you could play it with a friend, and it was just a blast. If you haven't given this one a try, but you like the later Borderlands games, I would highly recommend it. In fact, if you just like FPS games, I would highly recommend it anyway. Plants vs. Zombies, I feel like released out of nowhere, but it was such a fantastic game, and it is one of my favorite tower defense games of all time. I remember staying up late all the time playing it with a friend, trying to do endless survival, playing through the campaign, growing the tree, growing your own garden, defending your house from waves of zombies, using pea shooters, sunflowers to get the sun to build your plants, cherry bombs, walnuts, and just so many other different plants. It also had a ton of replayability, and it had a ton of mini games too, and it was just a fantastic game, and it only cost you like $5-10 or something like that. Not to mention, it had an absolutely fantastic Zombies on My Lawn soundtrack. If you wanted to feel like an unstoppable monster and just cause absolute chaos, then Prototype was your game. You play as Alex Mercer, a guy with shape-shifting deadly powers, running loose in New York City. It was violent, it was fast, it was visceral. You could leap across buildings, throw cars, and impale enemies. It was dark, it was brutal, it was bloody, but it was a lot of fun. If you were a Marvel fan in 2009, you got the fantastic Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, and it was an absolute dream. You got to play as so many different heroes. It had a good story, it was fun, and it was like an action RPG that let you form your own team of superheroes from the Marvel Universe, and it took on the Civil War Marvel story where Iron Man and Captain America, they split into two different sides, and you made choices, and you just got to play as so many different heroes, and it was just chaotic, colorful, and tons of fun, and you could play with your friends, which was, of course, even more fun. It was polished, and it's just a great game, and I think it's also the best game in the franchise. I think the third game and the first game are lacking a bit compared to the second game. Halo Wars gave you a real-time strategy in the Halo universe, and although it seemed like it was looked over a lot and it didn't get the attention I think it deserved, it was a really fun game, and it was set before the events of Halo Combat Evolved. And while it did have a story, I gotta be honest, I didn't pay much attention to the story. I like to just play either multiplayer or just my own custom matches, and you got to play as the Spartans and you got to play as the Covenant, and it was just a whole lot of fun. It wasn't like super complicated or anything, but it was just really fun and I really enjoyed it. And the last game that I got for 2009 is Lego Indiana Jones 2, and it expanded upon Lego Indiana Jones in every possible way. And as I said before, I'm not even the biggest I'm not the biggest Indiana Jones fan, but this game was an absolute masterpiece. It was so fun, it had a lot of customization, and it had a level builder mode, which was massive. That's where most of my time went in this game. I like to just try to build my own levels and my own little obstacle courses, and I just thought it was like the coolest thing. I would see something in a show, and then I would try to like recreate an obstacle course or something. I don't know. I just remember one time I watched a Pink Panther episode, and it was like this military base that had an obstacle course, and I tried to recreate that in the game and then have my friends play through it. I don't know. It was just a really fun game, and I haven't played it in a while, but honestly, I think it's one of my favorite Lego games of all time. had to stop filling my list because there were so many good games, and I'm sure there's plenty of other good games that aren't on my list, of course, because I haven't played every game. And if you think it's a good game that released in 2010 but it's not on this list, it means I probably haven't played it, and maybe you should recommend it in the comments below. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood released, and it took everything that Assassin's Creed 2 did and built on it in about every single way. You're back as Ezio, and you're just kind of creating your own brotherhood. Like, literally, you could recruit assassins, and you had like assassin missions where you could use your assassins. I think I said assassins too much at this point, but you were in ancient Rome and it just felt alive. There was a lot of upgrading that you could do. There was like restorations or something like that that you could do with the world. Not to mention it had a good story, good characters, good gameplay. Overall, it's just like a really good Assassin's Creed game, and if I'm being honest here, it's one of the best Assassin's Creed games. Call of Duty Black Ops released, and it leaned hard into the Cold War paranoia and gave us one of the best campaigns in Call of Duty history. It had conspiracies, brainwashing, brutal interrogations. It went dark fast. The campaign was a 10 out of 10, and it may just be one of the best campaigns in the franchise. Not to mention the multiplayer was pure chaos and fun, and it also had like betting matches where you could bet currency because there was a currency to unlock stuff in your loadout, and then you could do like wager matches and stuff, which a lot of people liked. I really liked Black Ops multiplayer, but I gotta say, I didn't like a lot of the maps for that game. I don't know what it was, but some of the maps in that game were just like really bad. Not to mention it upgraded zombies mode and added more story, characters, and maps like Ascension and 5 and Kindertoten, which I probably mispronounced that too. Oh, it also gave us Shangri-La, which also was awesome. Or not Shangri-La, it was like that other. Either way, it gave us a bunch of good maps, and zombies mode was excellent in this game. And then Halo Reach released, and it was a fantastic Halo game. Of course, that's my opinion. There's a lot of people that don't like this game for some reason, and I can't imagine why, because it is a fantastic Halo game. It has a lot of emotion to it if you play through the story, and it has some good characters. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to have like a good ending, and by that I mean like, you know, it wasn't going to be a happy ending or anything, but it had an emotional ending. It was good. The gameplay was good. It also gave us a really good Forge mode. A lot of custom games were made with that, and some like custom levels. And it also gave us a really good firefight mode that I have still played to this day. And then we got Fallout New Vegas. Of course, this had to be on the list too, because I'm a huge Fallout fan, so all of the Fallout games I like for the most part. I mean, not all of them, but most of them. Fallout New Vegas gave us more factions, deeper dialogue, some moral gray zones. It was just a really fantastic game. It had a good story. It had consequences to your actions. It had branching stories and different endings that you could get. Was it a buggy game? Yes. Was it perfect? No. But it was pretty close, and with the development time that was only 18 months, I mean, that makes it even more crazy that the game is this good and it only was developed for 18 months. It is hands down one of the best Fallout games, if not the best Fallout game, and it needs that remaster treatment. Can we get a remaster? Alright, so hear me out on this one. We got Toy Story 3, and it might look like a simple movie tie-in game, but if you ever played Toy Story 3, you know that it was fun. It was a fun game. I don't care what anyone else says, this is a fun game, okay? It had toy box mode, and it was just fun. It was like an open-ended sandbox mode where you could just ride horses, build your town, mess with the world however you wanted, do some like challenges and stuff like that, and it was just an absolute blast of the game. And it did something very well that a lot of games seem to lack nowadays when they release, and that is just pure fun. It's just pure fun. And then we got Naughty Bear, and Naughty Bear was a different kind of game. On the surface, it seemed like a cute little game about teddy bears on a colorful island, and everything was nice and going well. But in Naughty Bear, it was anything but sweet. You played as an outcast, a teddy bear that wasn't invited to the birthday party. And instead of sulking, he snapped and decided to just terrorize everyone and rip their stuffing out. It was a chaotic game that had some dark comedy, some stealth mechanics. It was basically like Hitman, but with teddy bears. It was just completely unhinged, and it was fantastic, and it's worth a play. If you never played this game before, I think you should go and play it after this video, and this game deserves a remaster as well. And then we got Aliens vs Predator, where you could play as a Marine, an alien, or a Predator, and that already got this game off to a good start, and each had their own campaign and their play style. Marines got the horror. It was more of a horror game when you played as a Marines. Aliens, it was like you were the monster and just taking out the Marines. And then you got the Predator, which was like your stealthy taking down. You were like a predator, honestly, and you got gadgets and you could do brutal takedowns. And it wasn't a perfect game, and it might not even be like a great game, but it was just a fun game, especially if you like the Aliens vs Predator franchise. It was just cool that you could play as a Predator, Alien, and Marine. And then we got Rage 1, and I think this is a extremely underrated game. A lot of people trash on this game and hate this game, but I gotta say, this game was fun. I really liked it. It had a good open world. I liked the gunplay. I liked just the gameplay in general. It had racing. It had good level design. I liked the characters. I don't know, something about it. I just really enjoyed its style, its theme, its world design, and I think it just gets too much hate. And then we got Crackdown 2, and I got this game at a Dollar General back in the day, and it was a surprisingly good game. And you start off pretty weak, but you're collecting orbs, you're leaping over buildings eventually, and you're tossing cars, and you just explore the city, you do missions, you follow the story, and you collect orbs that are all over to level up. And the story, honestly, it wasn't like the best, but it was just really fun exploring the city, collecting all the orbs, and just going nuts with a friend in co-op, just having some chaotic fun. And especially when the city got taken over by like zombie-like creatures, it was even more fun, and I just really enjoyed this game. It had some cool Easter eggs too, and I want to kind of go back to this game and make a video on it or something. But it's a really good game, and it is a shame. It's an absolute shame and disgrace what happened to the third game, and that the Crackdown 3 was just an absolute disaster and trash of a game. And I compared Crackdown 3 to Dead Rising 4 because they were both disappointing and they were both disasters. And that is going to be the end of this video because it is getting quite long. I plan to go through 2000 to 2025, but the video is getting pretty long, so I'm going to divide it into 3 videos. I'm going to have a part 1 that's going to, this video is part 1, so I'm not even sure why I'm saying this, but part 1 is 2000 through 2010, and then part 2 is going to be 2010 to 2025, and then the third video is going to mix both of them together into one extra long supercut of a video, and that is how I'm going to do it. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but that is the way I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to test if it works out. But if you made it this far, thank you for watching the entire video. I can't believe you even got this far. It's probably like 1%, maybe 5 to 1% of you that made it this far, and I appreciate that. And you might as well hit that like button, but I know if you made it this far, you probably already have hit that like button, right? Anyways, make sure to hit that like button if you liked the video. Leave a comment below. Tell me some of your favorite games throughout 2000 through 2010. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because you want to be subscribed. And I will see you next time.